Some pretty incredible developing news coming out today. Let's take a look at the latest headlines coming out in the last 24 hours. You can see here, Trump directs the Pentagon to prepare for military restructuring against China and Russia. Now, this coming out yesterday, September the 3rd, being updated today, September the 4th. I'm going to dive into all the details for you as take a look at more headlines. Trump has directed the Pentagon to prepare for military restructuring as Russia and China get closer together. Trump orders Pentagon to prepare for deterring Russia and China. Now, this comes as yesterday. I'm going to be sharing with you the video footage and the articles. China unveiled new laser weapons, nuclear ballistic missiles, and held a parade showing off their new capabilities and their unity with Russia and North Korea. China, North Korea, Russia, the leaders all coming together. And Donald Trump is now saying he is preparing our U.S. military to deter those various forces, as he is saying they are conspiring against us and essentially preparing for a world war. Take a look at this coming out yesterday on Truth Social from Donald Trump. The big question to be answered is whether or not President Xi of China will mention the massive amount of support and blood that the United States of America gave to China in order to help it to secure its freedom from a very unfriendly foreign invader. Many Americans died in China's quest for victory and glory. I hope that they are rightfully honored and remembered for their bravery and sacrifice. May President Xi and the wonderful people of China have a great and lasting day of celebration. That was yesterday. But look at this. Please give my warmest regards to Vladimir Putin and Kim Jong-un as you conspire against the United States of America. President Donald J. Trump. Wow. Let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. Do you agree with Donald Trump that yesterday's meeting was not just them coming together and celebrating, but also conspiring against the United States unification as China unveiled new nuclear weapons, missiles, new capabilities that they're saying could reach anywhere in the world, and articles specifically saying that what they unveiled yesterday has the ability to hit the United States of America. If you agree with Donald Trump, drop a 47 in the comments that this is a good precautionary measure to make to direct the Pentagon to get the U.S. military to prepare to deter potential forces of Russia and China against the United States. Now, if you disagree, put no in the comments. Let me know your thoughts down below. Now, I'm going to dive into the articles. I've got a lot of video footage that's been coming out on this. You're going to be able to see the celebration that they had in China. Vladimir Putin, Kim Jong-un joining Xi Jinping in China for the celebration. And also, as I mentioned, you're going to be seeing the footage of Donald Trump's response. I'm going to play for you the video footage, the articles. I'm also going to put it on the screen, read right from it. All my sources are hyperlinked in the description. You can see they came out yesterday, September the 3rd, have been updated today, September the 4th. Try to hold myself to the highest level of accountability here on the channel to my community. And if you appreciate that, do me a favor. Before we dive in, take a quick second, hit that thumbs up like button. Totally free. Helps out the channel a ton. While I'm live, it just spreads this out further so more people can get the updated information. I see we got about 2,100 people with me live. Can we get the likes up to 1,000? That's half the room. If so, it helps out a ton. If you haven't done so yet, you appreciate the updates, please take a second, hit that thumbs up. And also, to stay up to date, also totally free, hit that subscribe button. I'll keep you up to speed on everything, doing pretty much daily updates, some twice a day now. In fact, stay tuned today, September the 4th. I'm likely going to do an update later tonight as we're hearing more mega quakes are hitting in Afghanistan again today. I'm going to give you more updates. Just the world is trembling left and right with all the earthquakes taking place. But let's go ahead and dive right in. Get you caught up on the latest as we're hearing that there is potentially a unification of Russia, China, North Korea coming together in a celebration of their unity and their weaponry. And Donald Trump is saying this is conspiring against the United States of America. So let's go ahead and dive right in. Let's start off with some video footage so you can see it for yourself. And then we're going to be taking a look at the articles to give us some more details as well. Let's go ahead and dive right in.
In Beijing, Xi had some friends over for dinner. Putin and Little Rocket Man got the red carpet treatment. Modi from India was there. He hadn't been to China in 7 years, but wasn't ready to march in the parade. Xi, Vlad, and Kim wanted a little alone time. They got caught on a hot mic, and it was a little weird.
In the past, people rarely lived longer than 70 years. But today, they say that at 70, you are still a child.
Human organs can be continuously transplanted. The longer you live, the younger you become, and can even achieve immortality.
Just two dictators fantasizing about immortality. If you ever wondered what they talked about when they didn't think people were listening, that's it. Trump wasn't there, but he sent Xi a message. Please give my warmest regards to Vladimir Putin and Kim Jong-un as you conspire against the United States of America. The Chinese leader also showed off his toys. He took Vlad and Kim to the military parade, gave them a look-see at his nuclear triad. And they even laid eyes on his robot wolves and underwater drones. CNN was downright giddy.
We're watching live pictures tonight, right now, a massive parade underway in Beijing as the Chinese President Xi Jinping is showing off his country's arsenal and military might to the world.
This is a message of strength. This is a message of victory. After all, they are commemorating the 80th anniversary of the surrender of Japan. This is a demonstration to China and the world that China is strong, it can protect itself.
Oh, CNN lavished more praise on China's military parade than Trump's. Remember?
We don't need a military parade. We don't need to spend millions or maybe hundreds of millions of dollars to do that. But we want to do it because he has to feed his inner image monster.
CNN won't celebrate our military, but they're celebrating China's victory over Japan. It wasn't China that made the Japanese surrender in World War II. It was us. Japan colonized large swaths of China, Manchuria, Inner Mongolia, Taiwan, Hong Kong. Mao won a few small battles, but it was the U.S. military that decimated the Japanese Empire in the Pacific Theater and forced their surrender with atomic bombs, too. We basically liberated their country. Have the Chinese said thank you?
I thought it was a beautiful ceremony. I thought it was very, very impressive. But I understood the reason they were doing it, and they were hoping I was watching, and I was watching. President Xi is a friend of mine, but I thought that the United States should have been mentioned last night during that speech because we helped China.
Thank yous go a long way, especially if you want to do business, and especially if you want to do business with Trump. Trump's not too happy with India either. Modi shouldn't be cozying up with the Chinese. India is a democracy, an ally, and a key player to counter China. But they've been buying sanctioned oil from Russia on the black market. India doesn't have oil, and Russia's their neighbor, so it makes sense to buy it from Putin. But they're feeding Russia's war machine and making it harder for Trump to make peace in Ukraine. So we hit the Indians with tariffs. But we've got to give them a new source of energy. The Mideast owes us after we bombed Iran and gave them AI. So they should sell oil to Modi to wean them off Vlad's teat. Vlad lost his customers in Europe. Now America is selling energy to the French and Germans. So Putin's putting down a big old pipeline to China. It's supposed to be finished next decade and supply 15% of China's energy. Russia and China are growing closer. Someone might have to bomb that pipeline like Nord Stream. Trump's not thrilled with Pooty-Poot.
I have no message to President Putin. He knows where I stand, and he'll make a decision one way or the other. Whatever his decision is, we'll either be happy about it or unhappy. And if we're unhappy about it, you'll see things happen.
Now, the media says Trump hasn't done enough. The president said, I'm just getting started.
You've expressed many times your frustration and disappointment with Putin, but there's no action since you took your office.
Don't you worry that... How do you know there's no action?
But
really?
Don't you worry...
Wait. Who are you with?
I'm with Polish radio.
Okay. How do you know there's no action? Would you say that putting secondary sanctions on India, the largest purchaser outside of China, they're almost equal, would you say there was no action? That cost hundreds of billions of dollars to Russia. You call that no action? And I haven't done phase 2 yet or phase 3. But when you say there's no action, I think you ought to get yourself a new job.
Now, if Putin blows off and drags out the Zelensky meeting and keeps escalating the war in Ukraine, Trump doesn't have a choice but to ramp up sanctions and tariffs, and he might have to turn the Europeans loose and add more firepower. Hopefully it doesn't come to that. The China trade deal, that's the white whale. If he captures it, it puts Xi in check, and India falls back into our lap and we can do business with Modi. Remember, that's where Apple's setting up shop. Trump's already stopped wars in Asia, Africa, and the Mideast. He's just embarrassed that every time a world leader comes by to sign a peace deal in a Democrat city, they have to dodge bullets.
There you have it, you guys. Now, let me know your thoughts in the comments. Now, are you happy with the way that Donald Trump has been handling things with these foreign leaders? If so, drop a 47 in the comments. If not, put no. Let me know your thoughts. But as you can see, there is a lot unfolding, and we're going to get into more footage as to what came out yesterday. And you heard them discussing the world leaders. You saw Xi Jinping, Vladimir Putin, Kim Jong-un talking about swapping out organs in a hot mic moment, and also Donald Trump accusing them, and that is why we are now accusing them of conspiring against the United States. That is why we are seeing this coming out in the last 24 hours. Trump directs the Pentagon to prepare for military restructuring against China and Russia. Now, let me know your thoughts. Are we going to World War III? With what we saw in the last 24 hours, China, North Korea, Russia coming together, celebrating, China unveiling new nuclear power, new weapons, Trump saying that there is conspiring going on against the United States of America, and now we're seeing headlines coming out like this. Are we going to World War III? If so, put WW3 in the comments. If not, put peace. Let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. But let's go ahead and take a look at this article so that way you can see it for yourself. And as you'll see, there are several articles coming out about Trump directing the Pentagon to prepare for military restructuring against China and Russia in the last 24 hours. Let's go ahead and take a look at this so you can see it for yourself. Now, it says U.S. President Donald Trump has directed the Pentagon to be ready to detour China and Russia if required, signaling preparations for a large-scale transformation of the American armed forces. Speaking on Fox News on September 3rd, yesterday, and I shared with you this video footage when it came out, U.S. Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth confirmed that he had received an order from the president to begin planning for a major restructuring of the military. That is why President Trump has charged us at the Department of Defense to be prepared to rebuild our military, reestablish deterrence, not because we seek conflict. And we've been clear about that with China and Russia and others, Hegseth stated. Now, at the same time, President Trump has accused China, Russia, and North Korea of conspiring against the United States. And that is that True Social post I just shared with you. He came out and called them out, saying they are conspiring at this meeting against the U.S. He made the claim as China leader Xi Jinping presided over a massive military parade marking the 80th anniversary of the end of World War II and Japan's surrender. The president did not elaborate on what he meant by conspire, but reminded that the United States played a decisive role in liberating China from foreign occupation during the war. Earlier, Chinese President Xi Jinping, Russian leader Vladimir Putin, and North Korean leader Kim Jong-un appeared side by side in Beijing on Wednesday at a grand military parade commemorating the 80th anniversary of the end of World War II. So there you have it. Donald Trump coming out and letting us know, hey, we're going to be prepared for potential responses from Russia and China. Here's another one. You can see updated today, September the 4th. Trump has directed the Pentagon to prepare for military restructuring as Russia and China grow closer. Trump has accused China and Russia and North Korea of conspiring against the United States as Chinese leader Xi Jinping presides over a massive military parade in Beijing. Soon after Chinese President Xi Jinping, Russia's Vladimir Putin, and North Korean leader Kim Jong-un were seen together in China. U.S. President Donald Trump directed the Pentagon to be ready to detour China and Russia if required, signaling preparations for a large-scale transformation of the American armed forces. U.S. Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth, while speaking to Fox News, confirmed that he had received an order from the president to begin planning for a major restructuring of the military. That is why President Trump has charged us at the Department of Defense to prepare to rebuild our military and reestablish deterrence, not because we seek conflict, and we've been clear about that with China, Russia, and others, he stated. Meanwhile, President Trump has accused China, Russia, and North Korea of conspiring against the United States as Chinese leader Xi Jinping presides over a massive military parade in Beijing, marking the 80th anniversary of the end of World War II. And also, here is another one here. Now, you can see Pete Hegseth. Trump orders the Pentagon to prepare for deterring Russia and China. Now, right after this, we're going to show some more video footage so you can see it for yourself. U.S. President Donald Trump has instructed the Pentagon to prepare for the deterrence of closer ties between Russia and China, raising concerns about global security dynamics. And a lot of people saying this is speculation of a world war. We're seeing major powers, global powers, Russia, China, North Korea, coming together, celebrating, and as they're doing this, unveiling new nuclear weapons together, and Donald Trump is calling them out. According to U.S. Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth, the move was prompted by what he described as the weakness of the previous administration, which he said inadvertently drew Moscow and Beijing together, close together. Caliber AZ reports per foreign media. He explained that President Trump has tasked the Department of Defense with being ready to restructure armed forces, restore military morale, and reestablish deterrence. He emphasized that the United States does not seek conflict, but maintaining readiness is essential for the safety of the American people. Hegseth highlighted that U.S. military capabilities would be maintained across space, air, sea, and underwater domains, citing the Golden Dome system as a strategic asset that China cannot replicate. He also stressed that diplomatic efforts would continue alongside military preparedness, noting that the president maintains excellent relations with Chairman Xi and intends to leverage this relationship to explore avenues of cooperation. So there you have it. We are hearing that they are trying to detour war, go the route of diplomacy, but at this time, simultaneously, Trump is ordering the Pentagon to prepare for deterring China and Russia from a potential future global conflict. There you can see it. This coming out yesterday, September the 3rd, 2025. Updates rolling in today, September the 4th, 2025. Now, let's also take a look at some more video footage so you can get the latest updates on this. As we have seen that they are coming together, let's take a look at this video footage.
Today, you saw the video, the new axis of evil, as they're calling it, met in Beijing. So Xi Jinping put on a really big military parade to greet his partners in crime, Vladimir Putin and Kim Jong-un. Now, the CCP was showing off some new weaponry, some laser weapons, nuclear ballistic missiles, robotic wolves. The day ended apparently with a musical gala, because what dictator doesn't love song, dance, and poetry? Meanwhile, President Trump is not in the partying mood and posted a message for the three amigos, sending his warmest regards as they conspire against the United States.
They were hoping I was watching, and I was watching. My relationship with all of them is very good. We're going to find out how good it is over the next week or two. We helped China very much, as you know, when they talk about freedom. And I don't believe that, and maybe I'm wrong, I hope I'm wrong, but I don't believe that America, that the United States was acknowledged for helping China to gain its freedom. But perhaps that was just a sleight of hand.
And if he seems ticked off at Xi, it appears he's even more upset with Putin.
I have no message to President Putin. He knows where I stand, and he'll make a decision one way or the other. Whatever his decision is, we'll either be happy about it or unhappy. And if we're unhappy about it, you'll see things happen.
Here to react to all of this, Victoria Coast, Heritage Foundation's National Security and Foreign Policy Advisor. She was also Deputy National Security Advisor in Trump 1. Victoria, look, it's obviously what's going on here. China is feeling the Trump tariffs and feeling it really hard. We see slowdowns, manufacturing slowdowns. Russia is feeling the pinch from this ongoing war. They're trying to band together to box out the United States now under Donald Trump. Could this work?
Well, Laura, good to be with you. I was doing some math earlier, which isn't the easiest thing for me, but I was trying to total up the GDPs that were represented in Beijing today, which was Kazakhstan, it was Russia, it was Belarus, it was North Korea, it was China, and they came in, if I gave them the benefit of the doubt, at about 22 trillion, 19 of which is China. And then I was thinking about the net worth that was represented in the Oval Office a couple of weeks ago with the president between the EU, the UK, and the United States. And that's north of 50 trillion. So I think those are the numbers that count, that you have a massive dominance in the economic sphere by the United States. As you said, both China and Russia are hurting. I think that is the leverage the president has kept over these past weeks, and that's what he's going to deploy if he has to. If Putin won't see reason, come to the table and make a reasonable deal to end the killing in Ukraine.
People are talking about the hot mic comment that was caught. They caught a few remarks from Putin about living forever. Watch.
In the past, people rarely lived longer than 70 years. But today, they say that at 70, you are still a child.
Human organs can be continuously transplanted. The longer you live, the younger you become, and can even achieve immortality.
Well, first of all, Putin headed up the KGB. So anyone who thinks that that was a hot mic, I mean, I shouldn't have described it that way. He knew exactly what he was saying, and he knew it was going to be picked up on microphone. For anyone who doesn't understand how the KGB operated for decades and decades and still does, they didn't get that. But what did you make of that? That was sending a message to everyone out there, was it not?
That was pretty incredible. And I think, not surprisingly, both Putin and Xi recently turned 70, so suddenly they're fixated on their mortality. And you literally have them conspiring to be dictators, not just for life, but for all eternity. And this is pretty ghoulish, Laura, to have somebody who purports to be a Orthodox Christian like Putin saying he's going to harvest organs to fool God and live forever. It's just, it gives you a little window into their world, to the way they see power and the way they treat both the Chinese people and the Russian people, literally as something to be farmed for their own immortality.
Well, China's long suspected to be harvesting organs from prisoners. And what I think this brings up is, why be in any rush to do any deal with China? We know what China wants to do. Let them cool their jets. They want to play this game. We should play it on our side. I wouldn't do any deal with China. Figure out our own rare earths and our own magnets and let China, just cool it. Victoria, thank you so much.
Senior White House correspondent Peter Doocy starts us off with that, live from the North Lawn. Good evening, Peter.
Good evening, Brett. A new world order is forming. Across President Trump's 2 terms, he has had direct diplomacy with President Xi and President Putin and Kim Jong-un. But today, all 3 of those leaders teamed up for a show of force against the United States.
My relationship with all of them is very good.
You'd never know it based on President Trump's Truth Social post to Xi. Please give my warmest regards to Vladimir Putin and Kim Jong-un as you conspire against the United States of America.
Unfortunately, the weakness of the previous administration has driven Russia and China closer together. That was a terrible development of a lack of American leadership and a lack of American strength.
China's military might was on full display in Tiananmen Square as 10,000 Chinese troops marched in formation alongside nuclear weapons, hypersonic missiles, and even robot wolves. Vladimir Putin and Kim Jong-un were among 26 world leaders in the stands. President Trump was not invited.
Never even thought it wouldn't have been my place to be there.
But President Trump is watching and waiting for Vladimir Putin to stop his Ukraine offensive. Putin claimed today Russia is advancing on all fronts and that he'd meet with Zelensky if he'll come to Moscow. President Trump plans to phone Zelensky tomorrow.
I have no message to President Putin. He knows where I stand.
China's Xi appears less concerned about Putin's continued assault on Ukraine, agreeing to move forward with a massive Russia to China pipeline called Power of Siberia 2.
There is no charity here, not on either side. These are mutually beneficial agreements.
Putin and Xi have proven they've got staying power as superpowers, and it could remain that way for decades to come, according to a hot mic moment about medical technology.
In the past, people rarely lived longer than 70 years. But today, they say that at 70, you are still a child.
Human organs can be continuously transplanted. The longer you live, the younger you become, and can even achieve immortality.
That is a fascinating, one-of-a-kind window into the world of two 72-year-old world leaders without term limits trying to game out, according to Xi's translator, how to live as long as 150 years old. Right.
That is quite something. Peter, what about the Abraham Accords? Why are they in danger of possibly falling apart tonight?
If Israel decides in coming weeks and months to annex parts of the West Bank, then the UAE is telling White House officials that the Abraham Accords could fall apart, according to a report that is just crossing in Axios. It sounds like UAE diplomats are trying to talk President Trump into talking Netanyahu out of the idea of annexing any of the West Bank. And if he can do that, then the thought is that President Trump may be able to accomplish his goal of expanding the Abraham Accords. Brett.
All right, Peter Ducey live on the North Lawn. Peter, thank you.
So President Trump will host Poland's new president at the White House today.
It comes as Chinese President Xi hosts Vladimir Putin and Kim Jong-un this morning for a massive military parade in Beijing.
Senior White House correspondent Jackie Heinrich is live at the White House with more. Jackie.
Good morning to you guys. Later on this morning, President Trump will host the newly sworn-in Polish president to talk about Polish security concerns. They are, of course, positioned on NATO's eastern flank as the war rages on in Ukraine. President Trump said yesterday he's very disappointed in Vladimir Putin for stalling these peace talks, and he said that we'll be doing something to help people live. But his ire was also directed at China yesterday as President Xi held this massive military parade commemorating the end of World War II, showcasing cutting-edge weapons like hypersonic missiles, underwater drones, and a weaponized robot wolf. In attendance, both Putin and North Korea's Kim Jong-un. Trump posted on Truth Social, "Please give my warmest regards to Vladimir Putin and Kim Jong-un as you conspire against the United States of America."
Now, there you have it, you guys. Now, I'm going to pause the video right here. We're going to pick up in just a second, but I want to take some time to go ahead and look at what it was that China unveiled with those nuclear ballistic missiles that we're hearing was paraded yesterday as they unified. Now, before I dive into this article, just a quick question here. Do you think that we are heading to World War III? If so, drop a WW3. If no, put peace. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. And I'm seeing a lot of people rolling in here saying that there is going to be war coming around the corner and that they agree with Donald Trump, that there is conspiring against the United States that's taking place at this celebration yesterday, that this was not just a celebration to commemorate what unfolded in World War II, but this was actually conspiring that was happening. And you actually hear that conversation that was pretty weird about them harvesting organs, switching them out, trying to live forever to become immortal. Very, very fascinating. Now, also do me a favor, while you're dropping in peace or World War III into the comments, hit that like button if you haven't done so yet. I see we got 5,300 people on with me live. If we could get half of the room to hit the like button, if we could just get that up to 2,500 likes. If you haven't done so yet, you appreciate the updates, please take a second. Helps out the channel a ton while we're live. But let's take a look at these articles. You can see them. They're hyperlinked in the description. I cite the sources for you so you can read them for yourself, but you can see it here coming out yesterday, September the 3rd, 2025. China has unveiled new laser weapons and nuclear ballistic missiles as well. Let's take a look at this. A new laser weapon and a nuclear intercontinental ballistic missile were among the weapons that China revealed during a parade in Beijing, which demonstrated its military might and sent a statement of intent to the West. Chinese President Xi Jinping was joined by around 20 world leaders, including Russia's Vladimir Putin and North Korea's Kim Jong-un, in Tiananmen Square to mark the 80th anniversary of Japan's surrender in World War II. Now, among the hardware on show were the LY-1 shipborne laser weapon system and the DF-5C liquid-fueled intercontinental ballistic missile, or the ICBM. Craig Singleton, a senior China fellow at the Foundation of Defense of Democracy, told Newsweek the event showcased China's growing convening power, its maturing military kit, and signals its tightening authoritarian alignment. Now, here's why it matters. The DF-5C is touted as a leap in Beijing's strategic nuclear deterrence capabilities, while the LY-1 showed China's intent to match or surpass U.S. naval laser capabilities. Other weapons on show were innovative and diverse, particularly drones and missiles, demonstrating how advanced their defense industrial complex has become and how quickly it can produce a diverse range of weapons. Now, here's what to know. More than 50,000 people gathered at Beijing's Tiananmen Square on Wednesday to see the military parade to commemorate the end of World War II. Leaders of democratic countries mostly stayed away, but the presence of Iran's president, Mossad Pezeshkian, and Myanmar's junta leader, Min Aung Hlaing, as well as Kim and Putin, formed a roll call of U.S. adversaries challenging the U.S.-led world order. So again, Donald Trump calling them out in that Truth Social post, saying that they were coming together not to just celebrate and commemorate the ending of World War II, but he said there was conspiring going on against the United States, as we've seen the enemies, the adversaries of the U.S. coming together yesterday. U.S. President Donald Trump's comments that the presence of Kim and Putin at the parade showed that they were working to conspire against the United States of America showed how the event was as much about sending a message to the U.S. as its allies as it was about hardware. Now, at the parade, China unveiled the DF-5C nuclear intercontinental ballistic missile, which has a destructive radius covering the entire planet for the first time. Other presentations included strategic force of land, at sea, and in air, the nuclear triad. So again, they are putting on display, showcasing their nuclear capabilities. Dongfeng 5C ICBM. Among the weapons rolled out was the Dongfeng 5C, which is China's latest and most powerful liquid-fueled intercontinental ballistic missile. Now, the missile combines the technology of earlier versions, including the DF-5 and the DF-41, and carries multiple independently targeted re-entry vehicles with nuclear or conventional warheads, according to the publication Defense Mirror. It has a range of over 20,000 kilometers, meaning that it can target any location in the world. Hans Christensen, director of the Nuclear Information Project at the Federation of American Scientists, told Newsweek that the DF-5C is possibly a replacement for the existing DF-5A, which also has a single multi-megaton warhead. As such, we'll probably see the DF-5C go into the larger mountain silos that have been under construction for several years, Christensen said. So they had all of these on display. Now, here's what people are saying. Missile expert Yang Chengjung told China's Global Times that the Dongfeng 5C's MIRVs could be equipped with nuclear or conventional warheads or decoys. This can greatly increase the challenges for defense systems to intercept them. And here's what happens next. Singleton said that the key thing to watch out for is whether Beijing follows up with a post-parade live fire or naval drill, because hardware plus habits, not headlines, show where China's military is heading. There you have it, you guys. And again, this coming out yesterday, September the 3rd, 2025. Now, let's go ahead and take a look at some more of that video footage so you can see it for yourself. Let's go ahead and pick up where we left off, and you can see the latest coming out on this.
A little firmer than this message from earlier in the day.
China needs us, and I have a very good relationship with President Xi, as you know, but China needs us much more than we need them. And I had actually a very good meeting with President Putin a couple of weeks ago. We'll see if anything comes out of it. If it doesn't, we'll take a different stance.
Meantime, Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer tried to direct blame at President Trump for Xi, Putin, and Kim Jong-un showing a united front in defiance of the West.
America is more isolated, less respected, wields less influence over the world affairs because of President Trump. When Donald Trump is not running America's economy to the ground, he's been busy incinerating America's reputation on the world stage.
I should correct myself, Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer, excuse me. President Trump was asked if he had spoken with Putin in the last week in that Oval Office meeting with reporters. He declined to say whether he had, but he said in the next few days we should all be learning more. He also warned that there will be consequences if Putin does not meet with Zelensky. So far, that second meeting has not come together, guys.
Yeah, not close. Thanks so much, Jackie.
Thanks, Jackie.
Love that Chuck Schumer has to read that. Someone wrote that for him.
Well, yeah, he's always glued to his
paper.
notes. Yeah, but I mean, look, they were trying to send a message with that meeting. If you look at all those people, they're the reason why so many Ukrainians are dying. Look, for example, India, who was there 2 days ago. If it wasn't for them buying oil at 30% of the market price, there wouldn't be anything to fuel the Russian war machine. If it wasn't for China sending all the electronics and dual-use material over to them, they wouldn't be able to fight. If it wasn't for the North Koreans sending literally their soldiers to fight as well as work in their factories, they would still have Ukraine in Kursk. So, and they are providing raw artillery to the Russians who were running out. So that axis of evil is functioning as a wheel.
But the axis is run out of money, and the people are getting very frustrated. Their economies are tanking, and the president held on more tariffs on China when he put tariffs on India because they're doing business with the Russians. It could come very soon. I think the president's view has always been, look, I want peace, and I don't want to escalate things, but the moment I figure out that peace cannot be solved here, then the sanctions, the military equipment is going to be rolled in.
Just for context, the president said the People's Republic of China should officially acknowledge the assistance of the United States during World War II and mentioned the massive amount of support and blood that the U.S. has given China for its quest for victory. In 2014, the Chinese government declared September 3rd, which was when this was happening, Victory Day, because Japan surrendered on September 2nd in 1945. So America backed China, assisted them, people paid the ultimate price, and the president is saying, this is how you thank us. You had an interview with Van Kipp from South Carolina, and he said, maybe we should have our own celebration next year. And he said, this president has inherited a mess, and he's doing the right things to rebuild our military. And he was the former Deputy Assistant Secretary of the U.S. Army and former General Counsel to the Navy. I think we have a soundbite from Brian's interview with him.
And they spend $5 billion on this parade, and their economy is in shambles. The population is declining. This is what I call communist Chinese fake news and fake history. They downplayed the U.S. involvement in what we did to win World War II. They're playing up the Soviet Union. Brian, the fact is that the Soviet Union in the spring of 1941 entered into a neutrality treaty with Japan because they didn't want to have to fight in Japan and Germany at the same time. I'd like to see the United States counter this communist Chinese fake history, and I'd like to see us next year have our own celebration of the end of World War II. This president, I think, is doing the right things to rebuild the American military so that we can deal with the China threat and other nefarious characters throughout the world.
We said a main message was China is strong, fears no one, and is ready to take a leading role in the world. The Chinese people are not afraid of violence and are self-reliant and strong. I think the answer would be we're going to give South Korea, allow them to bulk up their military, via Vietnam as well. Make sure the Philippines has never been more ready. They could purchase these weapons. These are decent economies. And then we realize that there's going to be an answer for every buildup that China does, and North Korea is now in that evil family instead of the.
What about Taiwan?
Taiwan has got we have to deliver the weapons to Taiwan that they ordered 5 years ago. We still have not done it, but that's going to be key. You got to make that a porcupine, or the invasion will be inevitable.
President Xi Jinping is expected to host Vladimir Putin and North Korean leader Kim Jong-un at a gala later this morning after the three attended China's military parade. Putin and Kim also held their own bilateral meeting where Putin reportedly invited the North Korean leader to Russia. Here to break all of this down is national security and military analyst Dr. Rebecca Grant. Dr. Grant, good morning to you. This is the first time time these three leaders have ever been at an event together. And President Trump reacted to it this way on Truth Social, saying, "May President Xi and the wonderful people of China have a great and lasting day of celebration. Please give my warmest regards to Vladimir Putin and Kim Jong-un as you conspire against the United States of America." So what does this gathering mean for us here at home and the Western world overall?
I love that message. He says, "I'm watching you." And we have not seen the leaders of these three countries together in 66 years. So with Xi there in the middle with Putin and Kim Jong-un, Xi is towering over them. It really sends a message that China is trying to assume the mantle of world leadership. But Carly, all three economies are in trouble. They have a great military display going on, but our military is more important. But it tells you that this Russia-China alliance and their friends, North Korea, Iran, are a major menace to the United States. We have got to keep our military strong and keep our technology ahead.
Do you think that at the end of this meeting, these three leaders will signal closer defense relations? And if so, how should the United States respond to that?
Well, this is the big problem. Especially scary is the progress that North Korea has made with its arsenal. China is accelerating its nuclear warhead production. We saw one of their biggest missiles in the parade. And of course, China is continuing to support Russia's defense industry with microelectronics, the oil purchases. They are all wrapped together. So these three are arming up to challenge the U.S. and the West, and we just have to be strong against them.
Okay, so that's China. Now on to Russia. Yesterday, the president said that there will be consequences if a meeting between Russian President Vladimir Putin and Ukrainian President Vladimir Zelensky does not happen. Dr. Grant, are there consequences strong enough to get Putin to the table to this meeting and a potential end to this war?
Trump faces a big choice right now, and I think it is time to turn on those secondary sanctions on China, choking, of course, Russia's biggest oil customer. What will get Putin to the table is going to be economic pressure, and hey, don't rule out some continued conventional options for Ukraine to attack legitimate Russian military targets in Crimea and elsewhere.
Also yesterday, President Trump shared a rather dramatic video of the U.S. military striking a drug smuggling boat off the coast of Venezuela. The president said all 11 members of Tren de Aragua on board were killed, as you're about to see in that moment right there. This strike and the release of this footage, I am sure, will make smugglers think twice.
There you have it, you guys. Now they're switching topics over to the Venezuela conflict, and I shared that with you yesterday. I want to stay focused on what has come out in the last 24 hours regarding Donald Trump directing the Pentagon to prepare for military restructuring against China and Russia after that display we saw yesterday in China. And as I mentioned, this coming out across various headlines in the last 24 hours. A lot of updates coming out today. Trump directs the Pentagon to prepare for military restructuring as Russia and China get closer. And we saw him with that accusation saying they're conspiring against us. If you agree, drop a 47 in the comments. If you appreciate the Trump administration, the way he's handling this and the way he is calling them out, drop a 47 if you appreciate the way Trump is handling this. Now take a look. Trump orders the Pentagon to prepare for deterring Russia, China. These headlines coming out left and right. You can see the date, September the 3rd, 2025. Updates coming out today, September the 4th. And here you see Pete Hegseth. Now, I'm mentioning 47 Trump because Pete Hegseth said the reason why Russia and China and North Korea are coming together is because of the previous administration, 46, Joe Biden. He said kind of just sat on the sidelines, very passive, and allowed them to unify and to come together. And now they are doing this, and it is in conspiring against the U.S. Drop a 47 if you appreciate Trump. And if you haven't done so yet, please take a second, hit that like button for me. Now, in addition to that, also, we saw in that display, take a look, China unveiled new laser weapons, nuclear ballistic missiles. There was a lot that we saw unfold there. And that is why we saw this come out from Donald Trump yesterday, as he said, "Please give my warmest regards to Vladimir Putin and Kim Jong-un as you conspire against the United States of America." From President Donald J. Trump, he is saying that they are conspiring against us, preparing for war. Let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. Are we going to be going to war here very soon? What is going to be taking place? Let me know your thoughts as we are seeing all of these articles, video footage rolling out of what has unfolded. And, you know, a lot of people are speculating that if they unify our adversaries, they said it was a showcase of 20 different nations yesterday in China, all adversaries of the United States, that if they unify against us, that this is essentially a world war that we are going to be seeing unfold. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. Now, in addition to that, I've got a little bit more video footage I want to share with you. This just coming out today as well. Let's go ahead and take a look so that way you can see it for yourself coming out about what has unfolded in the last 24 hours.
Trump wants to make peace so he can go into heaven. Doesn't matter where it is, Chicago, Ukraine, D.C. He just wants people to live. Remember, Democrats thought he was dead. But if Putin and Xi are right, Trump might live forever. Ambassador-in-Chief of Protocol of the United States, Monica Crowley, is here. How are you, Monica?
Hi, Jesse. Great, thanks.
So you have now a little bit of a concerning situation, India, China, Russia together. Does the president see this as a threat?
Well, I'll tell you, Jesse, that presidents on both sides of the aisle throughout the Cold War for decades worked mightily to keep China and Russia apart and succeeded in doing that in different ways. President Biden, on the other hand, for 4 years, essentially ignored American foreign policy and allowed these two superpowers who are adversarial to the United States to float closer together. So just as with every other mess that Biden left President Trump is now on the mission to try to fix that. And President Trump is obviously, Jesse, driven by strategic imperatives to serve America's national interests, but he's also driven by the need for peace and the desire to see peace, the desire for conflict resolution and to see the end of killing and murder, death and destruction, both here in America, Washington, D.C., but also around the world. So President Trump's mission here in speaking to President Putin, President Zelensky, President Xi Jinping is to always try to find common ground strategically, commercially, economically, trade-wise, etc., because his overall mission is to try to drive the world to greater safety, security, peace, and prosperity.
Yeah, it's definitely a tangled mess, but I think a lot of people have faith that the president can unlock it. Tell us about the Ukrainian situation. It looks like there was going to be a pretty quick meeting. I guess those were the expectations between Zelensky and Vladimir Putin. Do you see that materializing anytime soon? And if it doesn't, what are the costs?
Well, you know, Jesse, only President Trump could have brought both leaders separately to the table to have a conversation with him about, again, trying to find some common ground where they can have productive discussions and try to identify a viable path to peace. So he had the meeting with President Putin in Alaska, and then, of course, 72 hours later, met with President Zelensky and 7 other European leaders. The conversations on both sides were very productive, but as President Trump has said, he expected that conflict maybe to be the easiest one to resolve, and it's proven to be the most difficult. I mean, certainly on the Russian side, you have 500 years of Russian history to contend with. The Ukrainian side as well. It's a very complicated conflict. But if anybody can drive a viable, sustainable peace process, it's President Trump. And he always says, look, we don't have American troops on the ground. We don't really have a dog in this fight in that sense. But his overall concern is trying to achieve a peace that will serve both sides, the region, and of course, the world.
Yeah, I don't know what's more challenging, making peace in Ukraine or making peace with Democrats to fight crime. Both very challenging things. I wish we could have a little more cooperation on both sides. Ambassador Crowley, Chief of Protocol, we very much...
There you have it, you guys. So, man, a lot going on. Let me know your thoughts. Are we going to be entering into World War III with everything that we're seeing? As I mentioned, headlines coming out like this. Trump directing the Pentagon to prepare military restructuring against China and Russia. And as I mentioned, for those of you hopping on a little bit late, I'm going to just recap this. U.S. President Donald Trump has directed the Pentagon to be ready to detour China and Russia if required, signaling preparations for large-scale transformation of the American armed forces. Speaking on Fox News September 3rd, U.S. Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth, and I shared with you the video footage yesterday, confirmed that he had received an order from the president to begin planning for a major restructuring of the military. That is why President Trump has charged us at the Department of Defense to be prepared to rebuild our military and reestablish deterrence. Not because we seek conflict, and we've been clear about that with China and Russia and others, he stated. At the same time, President Trump has accused China, Russia, and North Korea of conspiring against the U.S. He made the claim as Chinese leader Xi Jinping presided over a massive military parade marking the 80th anniversary of the end of the World War II and Japan's surrender. But let me know your thoughts. Are we preparing right now for World War III? If so, drop those WW3s in the comments. Let me know your thoughts. Now, in addition to that, if you haven't done so yet, if you appreciate the live streams, take a second, hit that like button for me. I see we got over 6,000 people with me in the room. If we could get 3,000 likes while we're live, that would be great. Helps a ton. If you haven't done so yet, you appreciate the updates, please take a second, hit that thumbs up like button for me. And also to stay up to date, it's totally free. Hit that subscribe button. I'll keep you up to speed on everything. And as you guys know, here on the channel, I cite all of the sources, all the articles that I'm referencing. They are hyperlinked in the description. You can click them, see the dates, see the sources, and you can know and rest assured that this is the latest. I'm going to make sure to keep you up to speed as more unfolds on this, as Donald Trump has accused Russia, North Korea, China of conspiring against the U.S. in the last 24 hours. China unveiling new intercontinental ballistic missiles and nuclear capabilities. And people are concerned of the unification of the adversaries of the United States conspiring against the U.S., which could lead to a new world war. Let me know your thoughts. But Donald Trump, he is not holding back. He is calling them out. And if you appreciate that, again, drop those 47s for support for the Trump administration. But that is the latest, you guys, as of today, September the 4th, 2025. As more comes out, I'll be sure to keep you up to speed here on the channel. That is the latest. Thank you so much for joining me, and I'll catch you in the next one. Take care. God bless.